Hi there. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent Training. Welcome to our Saturday live question and answer class. Feel free to leave your questions at any time in the chat, and I will be answering them. First, we're going to talk a little bit about spelling and sounds in English. I want to talk specifically about the letter E and some of the vowel sounds that it can make. Looking at letter E, the most typical sound that letter E makes when it's in a word by itself is the eh vowel, like in get or bed or men. Most of the time when you have an E in a stressed syllable, if it's the only vowel in the word, you're going to hear this eh sound. So I often call this the red tent vowel, vowel eh. And even though we have this same vowel spelled other ways and E can say other sounds, most of the time in English, when you see the E, you should be trying to think of the eh sound. The reason I point this out is that often in other languages, letter E is going to say the A sound, which is a sound that we don't have in English by itself. We do have A like in day, but we typically spell that with AI or AY. So that's one thing to watch out for, is that when you see an E, you might think A, and what you want to try to think is eh, more the lax vowel. You can get help for the vowel eh in my videos with words with vowel eh, in my vowel eh video, and in our Sounds of English course on speechmodification.com that walks you through all of the letters and all of the sounds of English. It's a great foundation to be able to pronounce anything that you want in American English. So that's the most common and important sound to know about. Also, when there's just only an E in the word, there are some words where it does say the E sound, like the name of the letter, like be or me. Most of the time when we have that E sound, we spell that with the letters EE, like green, or the letters EA, like in read. And so when E is together with another letter, that's when you have it most commonly making that E sound. Most of the time you don't have issues with pronouncing that E sound. It's typically in a lot of languages. It's just more typical that the spelling might be confusing, because of course we have read, like read a book present tense, and we have read, like I read it. That's the same as this kind of read past tense. So that's just a good example of how the exact same letters can say different sounds in different words. I recommend learning the International Phonetic Alphabet for, at least for the letter sounds, or for certain sounds that give you trouble, so that you can look in the dictionary and know, when I see the letter E, what sound should I be listening for and what sound should I be pronouncing. When we have letter E at the end of the word by itself, we call that the silent E. But the silent E affects the main vowel. So when I put an E at the end, there's a pattern in English that says silent E makes the letter say its name. So then the I would say the I diphthong, like I, same as the name of the letter. The O says the O diphthong, like in road. The A would say A. The U would say you, cute, etc. So many of you recognize this pattern from words, for example, like hat versus hate, that E changes that letter A vowel. Sorry, that's a little bit small to see. I do talk about this, of course, on specific words, and in our Sounds of English course, we'll walk you through all of these different patterns. Today is meant to be an overview of the letter E and some of the different sounds. Lastly, another thing that I often point out in my videos, because it is a common error pattern, is that when we have the E in a prefix, like RE at the start of the word or BE at the start of the word, in these cases, it doesn't say the tense E sound, it says the I sound. So not between, but rather between, and not receive, but rather receive. So this is because in these words, the BE and RE letters are unstressed. So the first syllable doesn't have any stress. It doesn't have the clear vowel. The longer duration clear vowel is in the second syllable in these words, meaning that the first r and b are short with a reduced vowel. So this is a lot of information to take in, and you may find that you have challenges because of the sounds in these words or because of how they're spelled, but I just wanted you to see the difference between what we have is one letter and many, many different sounds that it can make. There are also certainly other exceptions and ways that the E is used, but these are the most common patterns you can expect when spelling and talking about the sounds for letter E. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm so happy to have you here today. I'm going to turn to your questions now. If you are watching live, put your questions in the chat and I'll answer them for you. And if you're watching this as a rebroadcast or the later version, you can leave your questions in a comment and I will come back to them, send you links for videos that answer your questions, as well as if I don't have any information about that, I'll give you an answer in the comment, or I will make a future video for you covering your question. It's wonderful to see so many of you here, and thank you for joining, for liking, commenting, sharing. All your support has really been helping the channel grow. Okay, our first question is for the word theoretical. This is a great example of a couple of different things that the E is going to do, just like we were talking about. So in theoretical, our stress is on the ret syllable. So that's where we're going to have our vowel. Like I said, when E is by itself or when it's in the stress syllable, most of the time it's going to say like red. And then we have secondary stress on the syllable. So there we're going to have the letter E saying the E sound. So our letter O is going to say a schwa. Oops, I wrote letter E instead of the E sound. Theoretical. A tough word because there's a lot of challenging patterns here. First of all, the first TH sound is the voiceless TH. So you don't want th, but rather theoretical. Then I'm going to rewrite letter E with the two E's because that's a typical way of thinking of it in your mind and making sure you get that tense E. So thea, and then the T in theoretical is between two unstressed, or it's followed by an unstressed syllable between two vowels. So it's going to be a flap. I'll rewrite it here as a D for you. T's and D's in the middle of words in those cases are often that flap sound. So you use your voice, retical. The letter I is going to be our I sound. And then we have no vowel for letter A. We just have a syllabic L there. So we're going to go quickly from the K to the O, kol. If there's any vowel there at all, it's going to be a vowel schwa. So what you want is short, long, short, theoretical. I do believe I have a video about theory and theoretical. If I do, after class, I'll put a link in the comments and description for this video so you can get a little more in-depth help for your word. Great request. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see our next request. We have a question about the words enlighten and enlightenment. So for enlighten, we can either say this first E as an or you may hear it also kind of more as an because it's again in a prefix, unstressed. Enlighten, light has the main stress, and then it's just like the word light. You could think about that as lie. You want the I diphthong, so it's going to be enlighten. And then in the word enlighten, I can say it with a true T, enlighten, but most native speakers are going to use a stopped T there, so you're not going to hear the release of air on the T sound, and it's going to go right into the end. So it's going to be more like enlighten. It's going to have, it's going to have my tongue going up for the T, but then just releasing on the N. Enlighten, enlighten. And then for enlightenment, we just add enlightenment, another another stopped T at the end of that. So you'll have enlightenment. You may hear enlightenment with a little T. You can put a little T on there. You can also stop that T, enlightenment, which just means my N is going to be very short. Both will be short N's there because they're the syllabic ends with stop T's. Great words. Thank you for that request. Not easy to say enlighten and enlightenment with the American patterns. Great. Okay. Question about the word little. There's another flap T and syllabic L like we were just talking about. I do have a video for little specifically. Many people ask about this word because it is challenging. First recommendation is rewrite it like this and think in your mind little like you would for fiddle or griddle. Often when we see two D's, we naturally can do that flap and it's easier for us. You can also think about it like little. I don't want a long vowel here, not dull, but I'm going very quickly from the D to the L. Dull, little. Again, I'll refer you to my video about little that goes into a little more detail and some strategies for practicing that syllabic L. But when you understand what the sounds are in the word, it can usually help you break it down. Thank you for that request. Okay. So, and same thing for little bit. We just do the same pronunciation of little in your phrase. Okay, we have a question about necessary, necessarily, and necessity. So the stress changes between necessary and necessarily and necessity. So for necessary, we have first syllable stress. It sounds like necessary. And then for necessarily, the stress changes to the air syllable. So there we have necessarily. And then again, another change in necessity has second syllable stress. So I would say the most difficult thing in these words is getting the rhythm correct. That sounds like na, because that first syllable gets reduced because the ses syllable is stressed. Necessity or necessity. We probably use necessity more often than necessity. But what's important here is that we have a reduced vowel in the unstressed syllables. So necessity. And you can see how in necessarily we have the I vowel, but in necessity we have the vowel, again following our rule that letter E is going to say most often in a stressed syllable. So the syllable stress matters the most. In the dictionary, they do show you syllable stress, so it's going to show you a line before necessary, and it's going to show you can see that vowel in the stress syllable. And then in necessarily, it'll have the stress before the air. Necessity, it'll have the stress before the So the vowel sounds change, the rhythm changes depending on which iteration of the word you're looking at, and you do want to start to be able to recognize that in the dictionary. Of course, you can ask me. I do also have some videos, I believe, for at least some of these words. So again, after class, if I have time, I'll be going through in the comments and sending you some links to more details on your particular words. Great request, great question. Thank you so much. Okay, we have a question about the word martyr. So I do have a video about martyr versus matter. In martyr, this is one where, sorry, I left out my R. This is one where the spelling is not typical for American English, so it's helpful to kind of rewrite it with a different type of spelling. First of all, we have first syllable stress. We have the R diphthong. So it's just like the word R, or the word market, for example. You can think of that as how we say this word mar with two R's. And then we use martyr. In American English, we use a flap there for that T, martyr. Even maybe just a full D sound. I'll write it here with a D. And then the second syllable is the unstressed sound, but it still has that tight back American R. So martyr. And what's also hard here for a lot of people is doing both R's, going from the mar and the der. It's similar to the word murder as well. That one has two sounds. So your first R, you have a little more time to get that R diphthong. And then you want to be shorter, but still have the tight on the der syllable. Martyr. Yeah, it's not an easy word, so thank you for that request. Okay. We have a question about the schwa sound. So schwa, it has two symbols. There's an unstressed one that's short and a stressed one that's long, but they both sound like My tongue is central and relaxed on these sounds. I like words like above as an example, because we start with that short unstressed schwa, and then our stress happens on the stressed O of above. But I can think about it just sounding like above. Same vowel in both. It's just that the first unstressed schwa is short, and the above is held longer. But my tongue is basically in the same position for both of them, above. I do have a number of videos about vowel schwa. It comes up. It's the most common sound in English. So do check out my vowels playlist and my vowel schwa videos specifically to help you with that sound. You can also get help for it in our Sounds of English course that walks through every sound of English, how it's spelled, what accent error patterns to watch out for. It's a great resource to build a strong foundation to pronounce any word you like in American English, and you can check it out on speechmodification.com. All of our online courses are either free or available for under $2, so they're an inexpensive resource for you, a good way to kind of build your skills and enhance your knowledge about English pronunciation and American accent. Okay, let's see. We have a question about, I'm thinking, are you saying thought or throughout? You have a spelling error in your first word, Tyler. So we're talking about, you also asked about through and prom. So you might have been talking about thought, but you just accidentally put an R in, or you might have been talking about throughout. So we'll talk about both of those, but you can let me know in a follow-up comment. So for through, I rewrite this sometimes as through, like we see in drive-through, or you can think about it like through with two O's, because even though there's lots of letters here, we actually just have the voiceless TH, the R, and the oo sound. So spelling is definitely a factor in this word, because this looks like it has the word rough in it. It has the sound. We also have the OUGH can be ah, or it can be a number of different sounds, which I actually covered that in a recent video where I talked about OUGH and all of the different things it could, all of the different sounds that those letters can make. So you might check that out if this is a particular area of challenge for you. For example, in thought, it has the ah vowel. So there we have the TH sound, the ah, and the T sound. Throughout is just like the word through, but we add the out at the end, which has the ow diphthong. And we also stress on out in throughout. So depending on which one of those you were asking about, hopefully that covers both of them for you. And then the word prom, here we have letter O saying the ah sound, which is the most typical. In a stressed syllable, letter O is often going to say the ah sound. So you might just want to rewrite that with letter A or the letters AH, so that you can get prom correctly. It's like the rhymes with words like mom, maybe one way to think of it. Mom and prom go together. We also have a category of movies we call rom-coms, which is short for romantic comedy, but we use that ah vowel in all of those words. Great questions. Thank you so much. Hopefully that covered which word you were asking about with your TROUGH question. Okay. So talking about the words would, so these have the same pronunciation, and they both have the vowel like in good and book. So one way to think about it is, first of all, in would, make sure you're not trying to do the L sound. The letter L is silent. So you're saying that Siri hears you saying word. If you're saying what would, it's hearing what word. So it means that maybe your R or your sound is a little distorted, and maybe it's getting a little bit like there's some tension there that shouldn't be there. This is a lax vowel. What I'm going to suggest is try using a word like put or push to feel that sound. Push, put. So you could try put, would. So thinking about would as though it were like that, or even trying put, would, to try to get that vowel consistent, so that it doesn't have the error pattern that you may have on that sound. You can get help for the sound in our video about that. It walks you through what words it's in and gives you some techniques to use words like put and push to help you get the right shape and sound for that vowel when you need to put it in words like would. But based on the error pattern that you're getting, I'm guessing that there's too much tension in your in your and it may be sounding a little more like an and you may also be inadvertently putting something L or R like in there, where you just want to have only the You can also see what it does, what Siri hears when you try good. And if good is good, then you just want to change your g for a w. Good, would, for example. Hope that helps you. That's definitely a challenging word. Also, when you're using would, if you're dictating, know that we often use a contraction there. So native speakers, instead of saying I would, they're likely going to say I'd or he'd. I do have a video walking you through how to do that and thinking about I'd that way, he'd that way, etc. Again, because oftentimes people see that apostrophe D and they don't really know how to pronounce it correctly. And then they end up kind of still saying I would with that same vowel or some W coming in there. So it may help to switch over as long as you're going to be trying to practice on the word would, switching over to using the contracted forms, which just generally makes your speech smoother, more fluent, and more native-like. It's not necessary. It's okay to say I would go, I would like to, but we often say I'd like to instead of I would like to. We usually reserve I would for if I'm just saying it by itself, I would, or if I'm trying to stress it. So if I'm trying to just say I'd like to go, then I would say I'd like to go. When I say I would like to go, it typically is because I'm contrasting with I wouldn't like to go. I would like to go. So if you say I would like to go, as long as you stress on go, it's okay. But if you say I would like to go, it sounds like you're arguing, like, no, I would like to go. So be careful about using would, and think about using the contracted form as another option for you. Okay, thank you for bringing that up. And of course, it's we do use would as well, so there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, we have a question about lateral and laterally. So for lateral, we have a flap here. We have first syllable stress and the black cat vowel, lateral. And we have, so thinking about it like ladder. I'm thinking maybe if you think of the word ladder, it'll help. Lateral. And then laterally, we just add another E sound. Laterally. He moved laterally rather than, yeah, okay. Good words. Thank you for that. A little bit similar to literal, which I have, and literally, which I have some videos about as well. We have a question about Maine versus men. So here we have our A diphthong, and here we have our vowel. I do have a video about paper versus pepper, which I think you would find helpful for these words and these vowel contrasts. What I would suggest is in order to be able to make that Maine correctly, oftentimes people will, when they're saying this A vowel, if you're saying a word like day or say, you usually say that correctly because you don't have any consonant you have to go to. You have time to have nice vowel length there. A. So think about, for Maine, think about saying may first and then adding your N. And just make sure that you don't end up doing men, but may, Maine. Open up for your A and then you glide into the I of the diphthong, Maine. Versus men, that vowel doesn't change. It's open, but it's lax. So the A and are about the same amount of openness. It's just that is relaxed and it doesn't close. It doesn't change. Whereas I'm gliding between two positions. I'm closing and relaxing as I go. Yeah, so you'll see more help for that if you check out this other video as well. But Maine and men is definitely all about the vowel contrasts there. Okay, we have a question about the phrase period of time. So yes, so for period of time, our main stress in that phrase is on the time word, but the challenging pronunciation is probably in the period and maybe also in the word of. Many people mispronounce that word without realizing it. It's a short, unstressed word, but it doesn't really sound like it's spelled. So if I'm saying period of time, what I would do is think about it this way. Think about, we have the ear diphthong here. So I would rewrite it like peer. This is another E sound, period. We have the vowel schwa there. And what I would do is think about linking period of. That's going to help you say that D sound accurately. And then your of is another vowel and a V sound. So the word of is actually a schwa and a V. So there's no O, no F sound. Period of, and then for time, there's no way to respell that. That makes any more sense. We just have our I diphthong there. Here's an example of E making the I say its name. So period of time, for a long period of time, period of. So I would say linking these, making sure you have the length and the ear sound there, period. And then we're going to have a little length here, but our main length in that phrase is on the time, period of time. So you kind of have fast, period of, 4 fast syllables, period of time, and then time gets stretched out. Just go take it slow, break it down syllable by syllable, and then try to speed it back up. Keep the length relative, like period of time, period of time, period of time. I think that rhythm is often quite important in sounding natural when you're pronouncing a phrase like that. Okay, hopefully that helps you. I do often recommend, in general, when you're listening to trying to imitate and sound natural, you can slow down a video playback here on YouTube, use the settings button, and use maybe the 0.75 speed so that you can hear the sounds more clearly, but the rhythm is still the same relatively, and then you can speed it back up. You can do the same thing when you're practicing yourself on any word or phrase. Slow it down, but try to keep the rhythm accurate, and then speed it back up. And that's a big part of sounding natural and being fluent when you're pronouncing things that are challenging for you. Okay, wonderful questions today. Thanks so much for a great class, for being here today. Again, if you're watching this as a replay, you can leave your questions in the comments and I will come back to you with answers and resources for you. Check out our Word of the Day classes that are every day here on the channel. They do break down words. They're all from viewer requests, and they often talk about patterns that will be helpful as well. I'll be back tomorrow with our members only class. So those of you who are channel members, remember to get your requests in, and I cover those for you each week. You can attend live or you can just leave requests on any video and I'll answer them for you. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. It helps support us, and you can use the notifications to find out when we're live and when we've uploaded new videos. Keep your comments, likes, and shares and questions coming. I do go through and respond to all of the comments in the channel, so it's a great way to get your questions answered. And be back again with me next Saturday for our live question and answer class if you're available, or watch it later on as a rebroadcast. Thanks everyone for a wonderful class today. It was so nice to see so many of you here and to answer your great questions. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye everyone. Thanks for watching.